that goes with standard 11. Element A is Benjamin Mays, and we're still looking at the same type of information. Who was Benjamin Mays, and what impact do you feel he had on the civil rights movement through the 40s and 50s, and for Benjamin Mays up through the 60s? I'm going to show you something a little bit different. I'm still going to use the New Georgia Encyclopedia. I searched for Benjamin Mays in the search bar and already have the article brought up. But on this side of the screen, I just have a Word document brought up with Benjamin Mays' name. And I want you to see how you can take information, pull it from the article, and put it in like a 2-column notes. So I'll put my information here, and then on the other side I have a column called In My Own Words, because that's what you want to begin to develop. It's fine if you're going to cite your article and copy and paste information, but you're going to demonstrate a true understanding when you can interpret what this means on your own. So this is how we're going to do this. For Benjamin Mays, he was born in 1894 and died in 1984. Well, I already know a little bit about him just from discussions that we've had in class. He was very influential in the civil rights movement. Even though you may not have heard a lot about him, his influence was primarily on Martin Luther King Jr. as a mentor and as a teacher. But just to get some background information, before I even start, I want to scroll down to the bottom of this, and you'll see there's a tab that says Cite this article. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to copy and paste this into my Word document. That way, now that I'm going to actually copy and paste other information into my left column in my Word document, I know that I'm giving proper credit to the author of this article. So now I'm going to go back up to the top and start looking for that basic information. The first thing I see is that he was a minister, an educator, a scholar, and a social activist. He was also the president of Morehouse College, and that is what he is most well known for. So I'm going to take this and just copy and paste that into my Word document. It brings the links and all over. I'd want to be cautious about copying and pasting the entire paragraph. I mean, if you're just copying and pasting for the sake of doing that, then you're not really getting anything out of it. So make sure that you read what you're including. As I come down here to the bottom of the paragraph, I also see that he had a big leadership role in other national organizations. So I don't want to include everything, but some of these that stand out are the first two. He was a leader in the NAACP and a leader in the YMCA. So I can copy and paste, but really I'm just going to come over here and type. And the reason for me that I would include these is, first of all, it shows that he is active in civil rights as a leader in the NAACP, but he's also active in wanting to help everyone and promote a good positive lifestyle by being an active leader in the YMCA. And you can definitely scroll down and see some of the other organizations that he led. When we come down here, you see basic information, his education, and it's definitely important to read about someone's background to kind of see where they're coming from and how do you think their background influenced their later life. But I want to stay on track and I want to keep focused on our topic. What influence did he have, or what impact did he have on the civil rights movement? So I know that I want to come down in my article a little bit further and look for something along the lines of his travels. One of the things that we discussed in class is that he worked with Gandhi, or had dealings with Gandhi. So when we come down here, we can see the India comes out in this paragraph. So I want to just take a second and read for understanding and for detail in here. It says perhaps the most significant of his travels was a trip in 1936 to India, where he spoke at some length with Mahatma Gandhi. And I want you to think back to 7th grade in this. Gandhi is the civil rights leader in India who worked using passive resistance techniques and strategies to gain equal rights for Indians, and eventually it led to the independence of India from Great Britain. So we can see some of the similarities in the techniques that were used in India transferring over to the civil rights movement in the United States. What he wanted was an exchange of ideas, so I'm just going to pull out some of this information. A trip in 1936 to India, where he spoke with Gandhi, and this last part, where this exchange of ideas came to fruition during the civil rights movement. And when something comes to fruition, that means that that is the result of something that happened. So this exchange of ideas, Benjamin Mays gathered these ideas and brought them to the United States, and then some years later we see that things are happening with them. So I'm going to take this information and put it in my chart. Now, before I read any further, I want to stop and think for a minute. What would this have to do with the civil rights movement? We're talking about the time period of the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s. So just what I just mentioned previously, you may want to take a minute and come over to the In My Own Words column and just write down or type up some of your thoughts. How does this event in Benjamin Mays' life, how do you think it influenced anything that he did during the civil rights movement? And once you're done with that, come back to the article. And as you scroll down, some other words start popping out. So I see Martin Luther King Jr.'s name. And I know that he was a very influential leader in the civil rights movement. So I want to see what the relationship is between these two people. Just like we already put in our column, Benjamin Mays was the president of Morehouse College. This is where he had his greatest influence on events in history. So that tells me that there's something important that's about to be mentioned. His most famous student at Morehouse was Martin Luther King Jr. So not only were they friends, and not only was he a mentor, but he was a teacher of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So had lots of influence over him. This is where we can start to see definitely the impact. And this whole paragraph really is worth reading for detail. During King's years as an undergraduate at Morehouse in the mid-1940s, they developed a close relationship, and it continued until his death in 1968. This kind of gives you some information about what Benjamin Mays' thoughts were and his ideas, and how that translated into a peaceful protest or a peaceful approach to the civil rights movement. So, as you read, I want you to determine what would be those most important information to include, and staying focused on your topic. What impact did Benjamin Mays have on the civil rights movement? If there are any things that you want to copy and paste, you put those in your information column, and then take the time to interpret all of that information into your own words to develop your response to who was Benjamin Mays and how did he impact the civil rights movement.